Food is good. Food with a story is better. Food with a story that you haven't heard about is better than that. And
What do you know about Andrew Zimmern other than he's been called the bizarre foods guy on the Travel Channel? Let's be honest. If that's all you know, then Andrew has been hiding a lot from you. Unlike what he portrays on camera, Andrew Zimmern's life is actually characterized by dramatic fall and redemption. Having faced tragedy from a very young age until today, he still hasn't been able to find a way to eliminate it from his life. Keep calm to listen to the story of Andrew Zimmern's unfortunate life. Let's begin. Our poor Andrew Zimmern has been facing tragedy since he was 5 years old. Can you believe this? Reportedly, his parents, who were best friends, chose to marry and have a child despite knowing that Zimmern's father was gay. This arrangement, while initially stable, became untenable when Zimmern's father decided to live openly as a gay man around the time Zimmern was 5 years old. The decision led to the eventual divorce of his parents, introducing a period of emotional turbulence into Zimmern's young life. In a candid discussion on the Hilarious World of Depression podcast, Zimmern revealed that he began experiencing depression and mental health issues at a very young age, although he did not understand what they were at the time. By the age of 5 or 6, these issues had already begun to manifest in significant behavioral problems. Zimmern engaged in compulsive and risk-taking behaviors, which included an intense compulsion to shoplift. He shared a vivid memory of how stealing small quantities did not satisfy him. Instead, he would steal large quantities of items, such as a bag containing 1,000 fish hooks. This behavior indicated an underlying psychological struggle that extended beyond the act of theft itself. Zimmern's compulsive behaviors were not limited to shoplifting. They also included an early experimentation with alcohol. During an interview on the Back from Broken podcast, Zimmern recounted how, as a child, he would make drinks for his father and sip on his scotch and soda. He was drawn not just to the taste, but to the thrill of doing something forbidden. This early exposure to alcohol was less about the substance itself and more about the excitement of engaging in secretive and deceptive behaviors. Zimmern admitted that he was addicted to the sneakiness and the lying before I was addicted to how the booze made me feel. This statement underscores the complexity of his early struggles, indicating that his compulsions were deeply rooted in a need for secrecy and the thrill of breaking rules, which predated any chemical addiction to alcohol. After the split of Andrew Zimmern's parents, his life followed a familiar pattern common to many children of divorce. He resided with his mother during the week and spent weekends with his father. This routine continued until the summer of 1974, when Zimmern was 13 years old, and a tragic accident drastically altered his life. Returning home from sleepaway camp that summer, Zimmern was confronted with a devastating scene. His mother was in a coma due to a catastrophic medical error. Incorrect anesthesia had been administered during a procedure, leading to a failure in her oxygen supply and resulting in severe brain damage. Reflecting on this traumatic experience in an interview with Artful Living, Zimmern recounted, "At 13, I walked into this room and saw my mom in a plastic oxygen tent. It was an extremely traumatic event in my life, one that has affected me greatly up until even a couple of years ago." The incident left an indelible mark on Zimmern. When his mother eventually emerged from the coma months later, it was clear that she had undergone a profound and irreversible change. Zimmern described the heart-wrenching transformation on the Back from Broken podcast, explaining how she spent subsequent years in hospitals and mental health clinics in a futile attempt to regain her former self. Instead of dying, where there could be an opportunity to complete a grieving process, the mother that I knew the first 13 years of my life, she was gone, and she was replaced by someone else. Zimmern lamented. The psychological impact of this event on Zimmern was profound and immediate. During his time at camp, Zimmern had tried marijuana for the first time. This initial foray into substance use was soon compounded by his need to cope with his mother's altered state and the chaos it brought into his life. As he struggled to handle the emotional turmoil and instability at home, Zimmern increasingly turned to substances for solace, marking the beginning of a perilous path for the vulnerable teenager. Clearly, his flirtation with drinking began in grade school, but it wasn't until he was around 10 years old that he experienced being drunk for the first time. This early exposure to alcohol foreshadowed a more tumultuous relationship with substances that would intensify as he grew older. The onset of his teenage years was marred by his mother's tragic medical accident, which left her with severe brain damage and altered the dynamics of his home life. With his mother frequently hospitalized and his father living separately, Zimmern found himself often unsupervised. This lack of supervision, combined with his burgeoning feelings of anxiety and sadness, led him to increase his use of alcohol and drugs as a coping mechanism. By the age of 13, Zimmern had found ways to ensure a steady supply of alcohol. He exploited the family credit at the local liquor store and dipped into his mother's emergency cash fund to purchase alcohol and drugs. His substance use escalated quickly. By 15, he was not only smoking marijuana but also snorting cocaine before school. This period marked the beginning of what he later referred to as his love affair with speedballing, a dangerous practice of combining stimulants and depressants, which he discussed on the Hilarious World of Depression podcast. Zimmern's substance abuse did not hinder his academic performance initially, as he managed to maintain good grades despite his escalating drug use. He began dealing drugs and relied on a daily cocktail of marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, and pills to get through his days. His experimentation with more dangerous substances, including heroin, began before he even graduated from high school. In college, Zimmern pursued studies in history and art history, but his academic career was frequently interrupted by his addictions. He often took semesters off due to the intensifying nature of his substance abuse. During these breaks, he channeled his energy into his passion for cooking, traveling abroad to learn from chefs in culinary hotspots like Italy, France, and Hong Kong. These experiences allowed him to cultivate his culinary skills even as he battled with his addictions. Andrew Zimmern's culinary journey was deeply influenced by his father, whose passion for food was a central theme in their lives. As Zimmern recounted in a conversation with the podcast Eat My Globe, his father lived to eat and ate to live, and traveled to eat and ate to travel. This philosophy of life profoundly shaped Zimmern's own relationship with food from a young age. Zimmern often accompanied his father, an advertising executive, on international business trips where they immersed themselves in diverse culinary experiences. These trips exposed young Zimmern to a wide array of exotic cuisines and cultural practices centered around food, sparking his lifelong curiosity and passion for the culinary arts. When not traveling, Zimmern's father mingled with a prestigious circle of food enthusiasts that Zimmern affectionately referred to as a gay food mafia in the West Village. This group included some of the most influential figures in the culinary world, such as the legendary chef James Beard. Zimmern vividly recalls attending Sunday brunches at Beard's home, where he was exposed to high-level culinary discussions and practices. These experiences provided a rich tapestry of gastronomic knowledge and inspiration that would later inform Zimmern's career. Despite his father's influential role in cultivating his culinary interests, their relationship was fraught with complexities, particularly during times of crisis. When Zimmern's mother fell into a coma due to a medical mishap, his father did not take him in. Instead, the 13-year-old Zimmern was left to live alone in his mother's apartment, with only a nanny and a housekeeper for company. This period of isolation was a significant and painful part of Zimmern's adolescence. Zimmern reflected on this challenging time in his life during an interview on the Back from Broken podcast. He expressed deep admiration for his father, describing him as his hero and maintaining a high regard for him despite the difficult experiences. My father continues to this day to be my hero. I have him on a pedestal, Zimmern admitted. However, he also acknowledged the profound impact of his father's decision to leave him alone during such a vulnerable period. It took me 25 years into sobriety to get to the point where I could admit that day when my father dropped me off at the apartment that he abandoned me, Zimmern revealed, highlighting the long-lasting emotional scars from that experience. After graduating from Vassar College in 1984, Zimmern immersed himself in the New York City fine dining scene. His talent and dedication quickly propelled him to prominence as a chef. He eventually became a restaurateur and a partner in a food service development and consulting group, marking significant milestones in his culinary career. However, Zimmern's professional success was marred by severe drug and alcohol addiction. This addiction was so pervasive that Zimmern admits he has scant memories of the 1980s. The period was a blur, overshadowed by his all-consuming need to sustain his substance dependency. He resorted to various schemes to fund his addiction. In an interview on the Heart of the Matter podcast, Zimmern detailed one such scheme involving the manipulation of old NCR 2160 cash registers. Using his manager's code and a small key, he could pocket between $100 and $150 from each register, amassing enough money to support his habit. This illicit activity went undetected for a while, allowing him to maintain his addiction. Zimmern's substance abuse was multifaceted and strategic. He used heroin to counteract the effects of cocaine and alcohol to moderate the impact of pills, and maintained a delicate balance of substances to manage his highs and lows. "I had it all figured out," he wrote in a piece for Guideposts, describing how he juggled various drugs to maintain a semblance of functionality. Yet despite his carefully constructed system, the reality was far from sustainable. His addiction led to numerous instances where he would fall asleep in restaurant bathrooms, a clear indication of his deteriorating condition. Despite his ability to function professionally for a time, Zimmern's life eventually spiraled out of control. The intricate balance he maintained with his substance use began to unravel, leading to significant personal and professional consequences. His story underscores the duality of his existence during this period. A rising star in the culinary world outwardly, but inwardly battling a crippling addiction that threatened to destroy everything he had worked for. By the early 1990s, Andrew Zimmern's life had reached a nadir. His addictions to drugs and alcohol were no longer secrets he could conceal, and despite the mounting evidence of their destructive impact, he wasn't ready to quit. His life became a series of evictions from one apartment to another, as his erratic behavior and inability to pay rent caught up with him. Relationships with friends and family frayed to the breaking point, leaving him increasingly isolated. The turning point came when one of Zimmern's consulting clients discovered him passed out on the floor. This incident was the final straw for his business partners, who promptly fired him. With nowhere else to turn, Zimmern sought refuge in a bar, where he encountered a group of squatters. Desperate and lost, he followed them back to an abandoned building in Lower Manhattan, joining their ranks. Zimmern spent nearly a year living in this squalor. His days were consumed with finding ways to fuel his addiction. He would frequent upscale bistros, looking for unattended purses to steal. The stolen contents were sold to buy more alcohol and drugs. At night, he would stake out nightclubs, preying on inebriated men who stumbled out alone. Zimmern would ambush them, snatch their wallets, and flee into the shadows. In the squatter's den, Zimmern's living conditions were deplorable. He slept on a pile of dirty clothes, surrounded by filth. To keep rats and cockroaches at bay, he would shoplift Comet cleaner from local bodegas and sprinkle it around his sleeping area. Basic hygiene became a distant memory, as he never bathed during this period. The once promising chef had plunged into a life of desperation and survival, driven by his unrelenting addiction. Reflecting on this dark chapter of his life, Zimmern shared his disbelief at his own actions on the Back from Broken podcast. I just can't imagine doing that today. It's beyond my comprehension. And yet I did it. And the reason that I did was that I believed with every ounce of my being I did not have a choice. There was no choice. I had to do it. This poignant admission highlights the depths of his addiction and the sense of hopelessness that pervaded his existence at the time. Zimmern's survival instinct, coupled with his belief that he had no other options, propelled him into actions that were unthinkable in his previous life. Plagued by defeat and consumed by shame, Andrew Zimmern reached his breaking point in early 1992, in a moment that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. The descent into desperation was swift and agonizing. Struggling under the weight of his addiction, Zimmern resorted to a desperate act. He stole jewelry from his godmother and sold it for a mere $200. With this paltry sum, he sought solace in the dim and dingy confines of a flophouse named the San Pedro. Entering the dilapidated establishment, Zimmern's next move was a ritual born of despair. He purchased 2 cases of Popov vodka from the liquor store across the street, clutching them tightly as he retreated to his room. Once inside, he tore the phone jack from the wall with a sense of grim determination, severing the last tether to the outside world. For the next 4 days, Zimmern surrendered himself to the numbing embrace of alcohol. The relentless cycle of consumption provided a temporary respite from the turmoil raging within him. Yet, amidst the haze of intoxication, a flicker of clarity pierced through the fog of despair. In a moment of profound revelation, Zimmern experienced an unexpected reprieve from the suffocating weight of his addiction. For the first time since I was 7 or 8 years old, I didn't have that ace bandage of pressure around my chest, he recounted on the Let's Talk Addiction and Recovery podcast. I didn't have the anxiety that I experienced during every waking moment of my life when I wasn't medicating myself. In this moment of lucidity, Zimmern made a decision that would alter the course of his fate. Summoning courage, born of desperation, he took a step that had eluded him for decades. He asked another human being for help. With trembling hands, he plugged the phone back in and dialed the number of his friend Clark, a beacon of hope in his darkest hour. Clark's swift response was a lifeline thrown to a drowning man as he rushed to Zimmern's side and ushered him to his home. Yet, even amidst the sanctuary of Clark's home, the specter of addiction loomed large. In a desperate bid to quell the demons that still haunted him, Zimmern succumbed once again to the siren song of alcohol. As Clark toiled away at work, Zimmern drained the remaining alcohol in the home and pilfered his friend's change, using it to fuel his insatiable cravings. Unbeknownst to Zimmern, Clark had already taken decisive action to intervene in his downward spiral. With the support of loved ones, Clark had orchestrated a plan for Zimmern's intervention and rehabilitation, laying the groundwork for his eventual journey to recovery. In 1992, Andrew Zimmern embarked on a journey of redemption and transformation that would lead him to Minnesota, a land of new beginnings and renewed hope. Armed with nothing but a one-way ticket and a bed waiting for him at Hazelden, a renowned rehabilitation center nestled in the heart of the Twin Cities, Zimmern took his first tentative steps toward recovery. At Hazelden, Zimmern immersed himself in the rigorous regimen of a 12-step recovery program, confronting his demons and laying the groundwork for a future free from the shackles of addiction. After 5 weeks of intensive treatment, he transitioned to a halfway house where he was tasked with finding gainful employment as part of his rehabilitation process. It was here that Zimmern found solace and purpose in the humble role of a dishwasher at Dubin's Cafe in St. Paul. Reflecting on this period of his life, Zimmern fondly recalls his time at Dubin's Cafe as the best job he's ever had. The camaraderie of the kitchen, the rhythm of the daily grind, and the satisfaction of a hard day's work provided a sense of fulfillment that was a stark contrast to the chaos of his past. From washing dishes, Zimmern worked his way up the ranks, eventually landing a position as a busboy at Café 1, 2, 3. As Zimmern honed his skills and gained valuable experience in the culinary world, he seized every opportunity that came his way with unwavering determination. By the time he bid farewell to the halfway house, he had ascended to the role of executive chef at Café 1-2-3, a testament to his resilience and tenacity. In 1998, Zimmern made the bold decision to leave his post at Café 1-2-3 in pursuit of new horizons. Despite initial setbacks and challenges, he remained undeterred in his quest for success. Fueled by his newfound sobriety and an insatiable appetite for achievement, Zimmern set his sights on the world of food media. Starting at the grassroots level, Zimmern began his foray into food journalism with local food reviews and short-form television segments. His passion for culinary exploration and his knack for storytelling soon caught the attention of industry insiders. It wasn't long before his pitch for bizarre foods captured the imagination of executives at Travel Channel. Bizarre Foods and its spin-off, Bizarre World, catapulted Zimmern to unprecedented heights of success, capturing the imaginations of audiences worldwide with his daring culinary exploits and infectious enthusiasm. For years, Zimmern's career seemed unstoppable, his trajectory marked by a string of triumphs and accolades. However, the road to success is seldom without its pitfalls, and in 2018, Zimmern found himself embroiled in controversy following a seemingly innocuous interview with Fast Company. The interview, conducted amidst the bustling atmosphere of the 2018 Minnesota State Fair, took a sudden and unexpected turn when the discussion veered towards Zimmern's latest venture, Lucky Cricket, a Chinese restaurant set to open its doors in Middle America. In an ill-fated attempt to convey his ambitious vision for the establishment, Zimmern made a series of remarks that would prove to be his undoing. Describing himself as an entrepreneur with a soul on a mission to make the world a better place, Zimmern's intentions seemed noble enough. However, it was his disparaging comments about existing Chinese restaurants in the Midwest that ignited a firestorm of backlash. His assertion that he aimed to save diners from horseshit restaurants masquerading as Chinese food struck a nerve within the Chinese-American community and beyond. Recognizing the gravity of his misstep, Zimmern took swift action to address the fallout from his remarks. He issued a heartfelt apology on Facebook, acknowledging the hurt and offense caused by his words and expressing genuine contrition. Despite his efforts at damage control, the repercussions were swift and severe. Filming was abruptly halted on both Bizarre Foods and another show in production at the time, The Zimmern List. Ultimately, the fallout from the controversy spelled the end of an era for Zimmern, as Travel Channel made the decision to cancel Bizarre Foods after a remarkable 12-year run. The abrupt termination of the beloved series marked a somber conclusion to Zimmern's long-standing legacy as a pioneer of culinary exploration and cultural immersion. In addition to career failure, Andrew Zimmern is also said to be an unhappy man facing a failed marriage. As Zimmern and his wife, Rishia Haas, exchanged vows in 2002, their union was imbued with the promise of a future filled with shared dreams and aspirations. However, the relentless demands of Zimmern's burgeoning career soon took their toll on their marriage, casting a shadow over their once harmonious relationship. Though Zimmern publicly acknowledged the challenges of balancing fame and family life, the full extent of the strain on their marriage remained concealed from the public eye. By 2018, as Zimmern embarked on the ambitious endeavor of opening Lucky Cricket, cracks began to emerge in their relationship, culminating in a painful separation. Zimmern's candid admission to the New York Times laid bare the heartache and regret that colored their journey, acknowledging his shortcomings as a husband and father. In the midst of their marital turmoil, Zimmern remained steadfast in his commitment to his family, vowing to navigate the complexities of divorce with grace and integrity. Despite the dissolution of their marriage in March 2020, Zimmern's dedication to his role as a father remained unwavering. his love for his son Noah serving as a guiding light amidst the storm. Through the trials and tribulations of divorce and the relentless demands of his career, Zimmern found solace in the knowledge that his bond with his son transcended the confines of marriage. As he embarked on this new chapter of his life, Zimmern embraced the challenges with resilience and determination, striving to be the best father and ex-husband he could be. What do you think about Andrew Zimmern's miserable life? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.